In this video, I'll talk about a piece of legislation that politicians now have that would provide $1,200 recurring monthly payments to almost everyone. Some people have suggested that this should be done sooner rather than later because there may not be enough time. This video, let's dive in and go over all the facts. Before we do that, allow me to ask you a simple question. Would earning an additional $1,200 a month over and above your current regular income be somewhat beneficial to you? Yes, of course, that is exactly what we all know, which is why politicians are putting this legislation into the works. It would assist individuals whose salaries fall below the thresholds that the legislation identifies. And once more, why would we need more money? They keep telling us that prices have decreased, but I'm going to go ahead and state that they haven't because of the rapidly rising inflation over the past few years, which has eroded the purchasing power of our money and driven up costs. Have not, at least from what I can see. Prices are still extremely high, and in all likelihood, they won't go down, despite their constant insistence that people need not worry about price drops since, well, things don't necessarily go down the way gravity does. Not always work when it comes to pricing, so that's the main focus of this legislation. Again, a lot of people are saying that we need to act on this right away because if we wait much longer, I mean it, we won't be able to afford it. They're introducing this and saying we must get this done right away, now and again. I will talk about the details of that because things are getting too late if we wait that much further. Like another year or two or three, we have a lot of exciting things coming here in the next few years, so I'll walk you through why they need this to happen right away. Things are currently developing and changing really quickly, so it's actually fun to watch this whole thing play out. The information, but really quickly before we do, please do yourself a great favor and subscribe below. While you're there, please remember to hit the like or thumbs up buttons on this video. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm here to support you in any way I can. I know this is a difficult time, so I'm here to advocate on your behalf, conduct the necessary research, explain things in these quick videos, and respond to your inquiries. Do everything in my power to support you and be by your side at this difficult time. Let's face it, the past few years have been extremely difficult for many people financially, and we need to work together. We have a number of lawmakers that, well, seem to be clueless. It appears like they are living in the clouds and are unaware of what is happening. You see what I mean, but anyhow, where am I and what's going on here? Need to keep an eye on what they're doing and discussing, and we need to keep offering them advice in the form of, hey, wake up, maybe you should do something to help the people right now. In any case, please subscribe below. Sincerely, I thank you, and let's go over the specifics. The legislation is now in place, and, shockingly, there have been several modifications of it, as well as introductions of this kind of legislation around the nation on the nationwide level. And there are a few variations of this kind of idea that are available, as well as a few names that they are giving it. All right, but I do want to concentrate on the major piece of legislation that is there that, in my opinion, has the greatest chance of succeeding of all of them. There are a few others that target particular demographics, and if you'd like, I can discuss those a little bit here. I don't think they are very significant in comparison to the other program that exists. So this is essentially a nationwide guaranteed basic income scheme. As you may recall, I have already discussed what guaranteed basic income is. It's simply just regular monthly checks that are sent out. No obligations. The best example I can offer you to better appreciate this is, think about a few years ago when we got stimulus checks. They were tied to specific groups of people whose income falls below certain criteria, and you can spend whatever you want with it were one-time payments, but the idea would remain the same. The only distinction would be that these guaranteed basic income schemes would last for a predetermined amount of time, sometimes 1 year, sometimes 2 years, sometimes 3 years, sometimes 5 years, and that's what I'm talking about. This is a 5-year course. That's what I mean, but it's practically the same thing. A few years ago, we received stimulus checks, but they were one-time payments. Now picture receiving the same thing every month for the next year. Do you believe that would be a bit beneficial for years? Yes, that would be very lovely and quite nice for many people. It would be the difference between paying the utilities on time and the rent on time, as well as changing the temperature. In order to maintain a pleasant temperature throughout the year, you should keep the house cooled in the summer and heated in the winter. Enough food should be on the table, and you should have clothes on your back. Avoid placing food on your back. I apologize for saying it incorrectly. It's evident that it doesn't make much sense. But once more, auto insurance, petrol in the car, and other such things are all extremely significant and might potentially change many people's lives. Number of people, but all right. The legislation is known as the Support Act. Now, for the details, this is precisely the $1,200 that the federal government is currently distributing nationwide. This is the thing. Currently, there are over 100. There are currently numerous guaranteed basic income programs in place across the nation, but the issue with them is that they're concentrated in different states, on different cities, on different counties, or on localities, and they typically only cover a few hundred or fewer people per program, thousands in certain situations, but they're really small programs. Okay, so they're not all-encompassing, they're just really small, but they're happening all over the nation, and more keep coming up on a regular basis. Nevertheless, the idea behind the Support Act is $1,200 continuous monthly checks, starting from the federal level and extending to the state, county, city, or local level, like the ones that are now in place. But the main idea is essentially creating a basic income for people who have. The income requirements are currently $75,000 for an individual or $150,000 for a married pair. In my opinion, those seem like hefty income requirements for someone to be eligible for this. But if they took those, I wouldn't be startled at all. Income requirements down. And in all honesty, I would kind of like them to do so because, in my perspective, those income thresholds are a little bit too high. $75,000 for an individual is a pretty nice income, and $150 for a married pair. I apologize, but a couple earning $150,000 annually definitely does not require $11,200 per person or $2,400 per month for their family. I'm simply stating that, sure, they'll make use of the money. Don't get me wrong, they'll certainly be happy to utilize it and take it, but I'm just stating that I'm not sure if they truly need it, and that we might want to concentrate this money on those with lesser incomes. Now, here's the thing. If we were to distribute this money and these payments to individuals who, have a greater income in that manner, guess what happens when we distribute it to an excessive number of people? Massive inflation results. All right, so we really need to thread the needle here. Or rather, they really need to thread the needle here and make sure that it would only be distributed to those who genuinely need it. Otherwise, guess what would happen? We would have quickly rising inflation if it were distributed to too many people. Growing inflation, problems with the supply chain, and imbalances in the supply and demand like what we witnessed a few years ago with the tremendous supply chain problems and all the empty shelves at your neighborhood stores, which are referred to as supply chain problems, and supply and demand mismatches because the products were selling quicker than they could be restocked, was demand for the limited supply. So once more, I apologize. Are you enjoying your economics lecture today? Just call me professor. No, I'm not serious. I'm just saying, all right. Okay, so that's the full story behind this. Here's why people are also recommending, and once more, when I say people, I mean legislators, that this be done as soon as possible. The reason for this is that, as you may recall, artificial intelligence is developing at an insane rate. It is becoming more and more complex. Look at it this way. Look back to the early days of 2023, which weren't that long ago. Specifically, think about January or the first few months of 2023. Did you hear much about those early days? AI, then most likely incorrect. While it wasn't particularly common in the past, artificial intelligence, AI, is now pervasive and can be used for everything and everything. It's amazing how quickly technology is developing. Currently, it is consuming vast industries, and it will only become more advanced. In fact, as of a few weeks ago, I read that certain airlines are now offering artificial intelligence, AI, for flight attendants, which is quite awesome. No longer necessary to verify flight attendants in some situations.